Good evening, everybody. Good evening. How are y'all? Good evening. Let me get my setup right here. There we go. How are you all tonight? Tell me how you're doing, where you're from, so I can shout you all out. Hello from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Good evening. Good evening to y'all. Doing okay. That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. Kansas, all the way from Kansas. I've actually never been to Kansas. Fayetteville, North Carolina. I've been there many times. They call it Vietnam. Hello from Nebraska. Never been to Nebraska either, but I like y'all's football team. The A. Been to the A many times. Stafford, VA. Been there. Been there. Oklahoma City. Never been there. Austin, Texas. I've been there. Lots of cows. Or either on the way. I think it was on the way to San Antonio. I saw a lot of cows. Either way, there's a lot of land and stuff like that in Texas. Kenosha, Wisconsin. For some reason, that rings a bell. I think I've heard that in the news recently. Chandler, Arizona. I think I've been there. Virginia. Definitely been to Vegas. I'm a big fan of casinos. Obviously, if you follow me on Facebook. Hello from Texas, Atlanta, San Antonio. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. You are appreciated more than you ever know. Oh, thank you so much. Y'all are awesome. A lot of people from Texas, Chicago, Nebraska, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Florida, Georgia. The Wallaces are here. Thank you guys for joining in. Thank you so much for joining in. I know it's late. I was up late working. I'm actually at church, just got out of Bible study. And I thought I would hop on just because I feel like taking some questions tonight and I'm going to be up late working. So I thought I would get my November session out of the way. So hello, it's November 2021. I'm Carmela George. I am a VA accredited claims agent with the VA. What that means is I'm individually accredited to present, prepare, and prosecute claims before the VA. There are organizations like the DAV, Disabled American Veterans, American Legion, VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Wounded Warrior Project. Groups like that are accredited as a group by the VA. I'm accredited as an individual to do claims. It's my passion. I love doing it. There's no more satisfying feeling than calling a vet and telling them they've finally been service connected. And so because I can't take everybody on, I wish I could represent the world, but because I can't, I do these sessions and try to help as many people as possible while I'm here and take as many questions as I can. Probably be up here about an hour. That's my goal. And so I'll take as many questions as I can in the hour. I'm sort of to the point, straightforward, straight shooter. So if I don't spend long on your question, don't take it to heart. I just try to get right to it so I can get as many questions as possible. All righty, let's get going here. Hi, Ms. George. Can I file a claim secondary to medications issued by the VA? Yes, you can. If the medications have affected you to the point where it's causing a disability, you can file what's called a 1151 claim. If you're taking the medications for a service-connected condition, then you need to file the condition specifically secondary to that condition and clarify that it's secondary to the medications you take for that condition. I don't have sleep apnea, but I did 2 sleep studies. My first one was home one, and my pulmonologist in his note said hypersomnolence persistent. Can I claim that because I read it's a rateable VA condition? You certainly can claim that. Yes, you can. Have you heard of a disability being ended after 25 years? I've seen the VA try to end a disability after 25 years. The law says after 20 years, your rating is protected unless there is a case of fraud. So in no way, I have a case right now where the VA is trying to take away a rating that the veteran has had for 20 years. And that is in no way, in no way, shape, or form should you allow them to do that. They cannot do that unless you have been caught with fraud or something like that. You've just been faking. So after 20 years, your rating is absolutely protected. I used 2 Nexus letters to prove sleep apnea from 2 different doctors. Was this a good decision? I think so. Providing as much evidence, positive evidence as possible, helps your case. If VA concedes to a diagnosis of anxiety, depression, but denied PTSD, do I refile for these conditions or do I appeal it? They should, if the VA conceded a diagnosis of anxiety and depression, and you got a positive medical opinion, the examiner said that the anxiety and depression is service connected, then they should have service connected the anxiety and depression. So in that case, I would probably ask for a higher level review. If they conceded a diagnosis of anxiety and depression, but the medical opinion was negative, said it wasn't service connected, then I would refile for those conditions and include a nexus letter, a supplemental claim. I'm service connected on back and move disorder. Plan to file for migraines. Would you recommend I file secondary to back or mood disorder? I think it would be easiest to try it secondary to the mood disorder first. If not, try it secondary to the back. I've had quite a bit of difficulty trying to connect headaches to the back. It has eventually happened, but it took quite a fight. And so I know doctors don't necessarily, well, I'm not a medical professional, but I've seen that doctors don't necessarily like that connection. I know it can happen, but they don't like to make it. And it's not that common. So mood disorder is definitely the way to go, I would advise. How do you go to a higher SMC level after level 1? You have to have meet the requirements of the next SMC, and then you claim it. Husband was put in bilateral peripheral neuropathy claim secondary to service-connected cold injuries and bilateral dramatic foot drop secondary to peripheral neuropathy. He received 20%. VA said for peripheral neuropathy as drop foot. I can't see the rest of that question. All of my secondary claims for this disability have been approved, but now they are ending. What do you mean by ending? After 20, is this the same user that was saying after 25 years, the VA is trying to end something? That would not be correct. If they're trying to sever a condition, please fight it. It's incredibly high level. First of all, if you search the BVA, the Board of Veterans Appeals decision database, bva.va.gov, you will find that the BVA often overturns the VA's attempt to sever a condition. It is almost about 70-80% of the time it's improper when they try to sever a condition. So you absolutely should fight it. Ask for a hearing within 30 days of the letter. Go to that hearing, present your evidence, present the law on cues. It takes a high level of evidence, and the burden of proof is on the government. And so the law and record should be as they were at the time of the decision. They can't gather new evidence and then call a cue. So you should definitely fight it if they're trying to end conditions, if they're trying to sever conditions, because most of the time that's improper. That also applies for reductions. Meant to ask, shouldn't this be rated as peripheral neuropathy, not as 1, peripheral neuropathy as foot drop? I can't say that I'm sure on this because I don't know if foot drop is rated as a nerve or as a joint. If it's rated as a nerve, then no, it should not be separated. If the foot is rated as a joint, then it should be separated. You've got to look at the code that the drop foot was rated under. and that would be on your rating code sheet. If you don't know how to get that, ask your representative. I put in an application for the Comprehensive Family Care Program on the Vietnam era vet. I was denied. I have sent in for the BVA. I just got diagnosed with breast cancer. Can I include that and send it up to attach to my BVA appeal? You certainly can, and ask that they expedite the appeal. It would be a motion to advance on the docket. That's what it's called. So you might want to Google that real fast, see if you can find any templates. I believe there's a template in the file section of the group, and that might help you. Can my RV veteran brother receive both retirement pay and VA compensation at the same time? This is a great question. Yes, he can, but only if he is over 50% in both retirement and VA compensation. If he's over 50% in VA compensation, then he should get both payments. That's called concurrent receipt. If he's under 50%, that means if he's rated 40, 30, 20, 10 in VA compensation, he will not get both. Let's see here. I was denied for endometriosis in 2015, but was rated in October with paperwork for my service records. Can I file for back pay to my original file date? Well, this might fall under a little used law called 3.156C, CFR's Code of Federal Regulations, 3.156C, which says if new service department records are added to your file after an original decision is made, a denial is made, and those records are used to make a decision on that particular condition, that that VA must go back and reconsider the original denial. It does not say that they must grant it. It says they must reconsider, which means they can reconsider and grant it from the original file date. I've seen this happen many times. A lot of veterans don't know about it, but if the service records you presented were not in your file when they made the original decision, what you need to do is get a copy of your claims folder that the VA has on you. You can request it under the Freedom of Information and the Privacy Act. Get your file, see if they had those records when they first made the decision. If they did not, then you can file for reconsideration under 3.156C, CFR 3.156C, and that should get you an earlier date. It's a very specific circumstance you're asking about here. This does not apply to every claim. The general rule on effective dates is that it goes from the date of claim. That's about 80% of cases. So her situation is not mass evidence. It does not apply to everybody. Make sure that you have new service records on your file before you try to go file a 3.156C. And you might want to get some help. Thank you for the help. It's not fraud. I have hypothyroidism. They should not be trying to reduce that, separate anything. You need to fight. Can a personal statement of how a person changed be used as a stressor on a PTSD MST claim? It certainly can. Changes in behavior are what the VA calls a marker, which is, evidence that a stressful situation happened. Ms. Carmela, can you elaborate on the new rating for flat feet? I claimed it, but in my STR, my doctor says plantar fasciitis and congenital flat feet. I'm wondering how they are going to rate me, and also the issue of congenital. I don't have my entrance physical paper to see if I had it prior to boot camp. Okay, so here's the thing. The VA does not rate congenital conditions. Congenital means you had it from birth. And so they will just say you had it from birth, we're not going to rate it. But if it's not on your entrance physical, the law gives you the presumption of soundness, which means they can't say you had it from birth. So if your doctor is saying that, then that's not going to help you. I would not turn that into the VA. You do not have to present negative evidence against your claim. So you might want to ask them to rewrite that, just include the plantar fasciitis and take the congenital part out or something like that. But you definitely want to get that reworked and turn that out before you turn that in. Secondly, it's not flat feet that there's a new rating for. It's plantar fasciitis. They just added a new code for plantar fasciitis, and it only goes up to as high as 30%. And so flat feet can go as high as 50%. And so there's just a bit of a difference there. The VA changed it, and that's the rules we play by now. So if you had a claim pending at the time of the change, you can still use the old criteria. If you filed the claim after the change, which was February 7th, 2021, I believe, then you go by the new rules. But congenital is not a good word when it comes to VA claims. Can a chiropractor write a nexus for flat feet aggravated by military service? Yes. Will the RO accept it is the next question. And that sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But at the BVA level, the Board of Veterans Appeals, chiropractor level letters are accepted. Can the VA ever change a static condition if the veteran only sees their VA doctor once a year? This is an interesting question. Does the VA, what I want to answer is, does the VA usually change static conditions? And the answer is no. Now, if you reopen a static condition, put in for increase, or something like that, then that case is considered reopened. And if you show improvement, then they might try to reduce you. Depends on how long the static condition has been service connected for. At 5, 10, 20 years, there's certain protections that come with a static condition. So can the VA ever change it? The answer, sadly, is yes. Will they or would they? They wouldn't do it without prompting you doing something on your end to reopen that condition, and they won't do it just randomly. But the fact that you're seeing your doctor every year is a good thing. That would help your case. That would probably show that you haven't improved or you're not improving. Depends on what your doctor wrote. So, you have to weigh when you're putting in increased claims and other claims, you have to weigh if your condition has really worsened or not before you put in that claim. And I should add that only about 5% of claims every year are, or at least the last VA undersecretary said, only about 5% of claims every year are reduced. There's a due process for reductions. You can ask for a hearing, you can fight it, you get 60 days. And so they don't just reduce you without you being able to do anything about it. I submitted a claim for an increase for my plantar fasciitis when the highest rating was 50. It was denied, and then I submitted LHR, and that was also denied. I'm still in the appeal window, and my question is, since the plantar fasciitis rating was lowered from 50 to 30, would I still be eligible for 50% rating if I appealed and won the appeal? They would likely give you what's called a staged rating. They would rate you at 50% before the law was changed, and then if you rated 30% for plantar fasciitis, 30% after the law was changed. The VA has the ability to do that. It's lawful. Are arthritis, degenerative disc disease, and disc herniations all separate things? If you're talking about for the back or for the neck, then it's the same thing. That back arthritis, back DDG, and back disc herniations are all considered the same condition for VA rating purposes. You won't get separate ratings for them. Neck arthritis, neck DDD, and neck disc herniation are all considered the same condition for VA purposes. You won't get separate ratings for them. You can get separate ratings for DDD of the back and DDD of the neck. Hope that makes sense. I've been lowballed twice according to my private psych DBQs. I have a letter of reasonable accommodation from my boss. Should I go straight to the board with the letter? You might want to try a high-level review. Well, you can't add new evidence in a higher-level review. You might want to try a supplemental claim first with the letter and then go to the board. The board at this point is taking 1.5, 2 years. It's a long time. You can get, if you're impatient, don't like to wait a long time, that type of thing, you might want to go to a supplemental claim route. But if you have time to wait, then you might want to go to the board level. And I'm not saying that time to wait is a bad thing. You will probably get a better decision at the board, going to the board level. They are much more thorough. They review the record better. They give better decisions. about 60% of decisions at the board level by their statistics get either granted or remanded, which means sent back for error to the regional office every year. So the stats are good. You know, the chance of something good happening is in your favor, but it won't be fast. Can you get back pay from the IRS if you're 100% PNT? I believe that you can. Hello, I'm rated 60% and all my conditions are static. Will the VA reevaluate me? They shouldn't unless you reopen something. Received husband's rating and claim closed on CMP exam. The examiner did not even take his boots off to examine his feet or muscle strength. She put on the exam no swelling, no deformity, and normal muscle strength. He was given a percentage of 20%, but he believes it should be more and was denied loss of use. I would put in for increase again. That's what I would do. I mean, you could try to appeal it, but that might take more time. It would be much faster if you just put in an increased claim. That's what I would do. You have to decide what's best for you. If there's significant back pay involved, you might want to go the appeal route. If I just received a Q for sinusitis, in which was originally filed in 2021, so I filed a supplementary claim for sinusitis, went from denied 2012, 0% October 2021, and 10% now, I'm confused. Shouldn't have been denied in 2012. Just a comment. I understand what you're saying. That's one of the conditions that is presumptive now. So the regs have changed on that. And it's just not the way it was in 2012. So the new regs don't say they will backdate it. It just says they will grant it from now because it's presumptive. That's likely what happened. What if the MST was a restricted report and only told to the victim advocate? There isn't anyone to write a statement on the veteran's behalf. The veteran needs to try to write her own statement or his own statement and try to identify markers in their record. Was there a change in behavior, any substance abuse issues, any performance issues, any weight issues, anything that they can show that something changed materially in service. I'm 100% not permanent and total, with 10% of the rating are static and one rating that is not, which is headaches, rated at 30. I have a future exam June 22 next year. My question is, will I get reevaluated on the headaches only, or will it be all my ratings? Your response is greatly appreciated. You will only get reevaluated on the headaches. If you want to get ahead of it, go ahead and put in for increase of the headaches and ask that they be made permanent. Ask that they be made static and that you not be scheduled for any future exams. Say they have not improved, and I believe they should be made static. Write that in a statement along with your increase claim, and you can get ahead of that reevaluation. Now, if you want to wait it out, then wait till they schedule you for another exam, and then write the statement asking that it be made static. Ms. Carmela, if you have extra time, what would my father do to get his service records from Vietnam? Have been referred to the National Archives, nothing found yet. Could they have been in the fire? They very well could have been. The fire was in the 70s, I believe, which was after Vietnam, and they could have been in the fire. You might want to try going through your congressman to get those records. If they say they can't find anything, that would at least make them take a second look. And just also request your file from the VA and see what the VA has on him. See if they have anything. I mean, I received the veterans records today for the first time, and it was on microfiche. That's how old they were. So find out if they have anything. Thank you for sharing information on plantar fasciitis. I recently had a CMP exam, denied me and not service connected. What should I do? Private doctor diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis. I also have feet-related issue in my military file. You might want to try to get your private doctor to write a nexus letter or find somebody who wrote a nexus letter for you and file a supplemental claim. Right, that's about it good. All right. I filed a supplemental claim for plantar fasciitis, but after checking the status online, the VA has categorized it as flat feet. Do I need to call and have that corrected or resubmit the claim? So no matter whether they call it plantar fasciitis or flat feet, the examiner will make a diagnosis at the exam, which might include both, and they will give you the more favorable rating. So you could call and have it corrected, or you could see what diagnosis the examiner gives you. Does filing a secondary claim to a service-connected disability risk losing or decreasing the service-connected disability? No, it does not. In the past, the VA used to reevaluate the service-connected disability too. That is no longer a practice of the VA. In very few cases will they reevaluate the primary disability. Usually that's a mistake on the part of the person who ordered the exam, that they reevaluate the service-connected disability. They should only be evaluating the secondary claim. If they try to reevaluate the primary disability, refuse the exam. Can a static 70% PTSD rating be reduced for filing for TDIU? Sadly, yes. They will reevaluate the 70% PTSD, and if the examiner feels that it has improved, the VA might try to reduce you. Those are the risks you run filing for TDIU. You really have to make sure that you qualify. I'm not discouraging anybody from applying for TDIU. It's certainly a good route to go if you cannot work. But, it comes with some risk. They're going to reevaluate all the conditions you put on that form, and you do run the risk. I've seen, numerous veterans where they try to decrease you. Now, when they try to reduce you, it's going to come with due process. You're going to get the chance. You're going to get 60 days. You can ask for a hearing. They will not reduce you till you get that hearing. And, you could try to fight it, add more evidence, that type of thing. But you really don't want to go through that process. So make sure if you're filing for TDIU that you generally qualify and your condition is really bad. For Gulf War presumptive for sinusitis, is 10 years after discharge. ETS was 1291, but only have diagnosis from 2002 on. Records dumped by doc, retired. Should I still try to file? Yes, and I would include a statement that the records were dumped by the doc and he retired. I don't know that you would win that at the regional office level, but I do think that you have a good chance at the board level. You might want to try to get a letter from a Nexus letter provider that says, it seemed from my exam, it looks like he's had this condition for, this many years. And if there's anything in your military records, of course that helps. How would I go about getting tinnitus due to medication from service-connected disabilities? Claim them secondary to the medication. Claim it secondary to the medication. I have 30% plantar fasciitis currently, but I have flat feet too. Arches fell while in military. Should I file for the flat feet? It might be more advantageous to you to file for the flat feet. Claims that is used in a TDIU for increase. Can you appeal those individual claims? Yes. I was awarded 0% service connected for allergies before the new presumptive Gulf War symptoms came out recently. Can I refile for that now? It is considered presumptive for actual percentage above 0%. Yes, you can. All you need to do is put in a claim for increase. Put in a claim for increase for your allergic rhinitis or allergies. Can you do a supplemental claim online, or do you have to mail it in? How do I do it online? I believe for some veterans, the VA is now piloting doing supplemental claims online. So you need to check va.gov and see if you have that ability and capability. If you don't, you can mail or fax it in or direct upload it. How could a veteran get denied with positive medical opinions for PTSD and neck and back? The VA does. At the lowest level, the regional office level, the VA does some funny stuff sometimes. This is why people like me exist, for appeals and that type of thing to help you fight. they just have a way of denying claims. They won't give you the benefit of the doubt like they're supposed to. They will go with automatically with the VA examiner's opinion over the veteran's opinion, which is nowhere in the law. Nowhere does it say that a VA examiner's opinion weighs more than a private opinion. That should not happen. So you need to fight it. You could either add more evidence and go with a supplemental claim, ask for a higher level review, argue the benefit of the doubt, or go to the board, either ask for a hearing or ask them to directly review it and send in an argument that, you should have been granted the benefit of the doubt. You can submit argument in a higher level review, but you can't submit new evidence. Hello, how long should the pain journal for fibromyalgia be? I'm a Gulf War veteran. I would have at least two to 3 months. Fractured my spine, had 2 15-hour surgeries. Oh, rated 80%. Re-examined, doctor stated I told him nothing was wrong with me. They stated they would reduce me to 10%. I complained, my 80% remained for 3 years. They wrote a letter stated that since I didn't appeal their decision 3 years prior, the 10%, holy crap, was now in effect. What's my next step? An increased claim? Due to my spine, I have diabetes due to lifestyle change and lack of mobility. What I would do? Oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. One of the more ridiculous situations I've heard. I want to give you the best advice. What I might do is try higher level review first. Argue that the reduction was improper and tell them why. Tell them that one exam does not prove sustained improvement. Pure and simple. The law says there has to be sustained improvement in order to reduce a rating. The other route might be to go to the board. I think you have a very good chance of arguing an improper reduction at the board. That is going to take a lot of time, though. Just like I stated earlier, going to the board takes time, but you generally get a better decision. So you need to either argue improper reduction at the higher level review level or at the board level. In any event, if I were you, if it were me, if I were you, I would get representation, a very good representative, and fight that like hell. I fractured my thumb and got med boarded out the Navy. My condition had not healed properly and is still fractured for a year later. Can I get an increase from my 70%? Is your 70% just for your thumb? That's a really high percentage for a thumb. If you are 70% just for your thumb, please don't touch it. That would not be a good decision. Now, if you're only 10% for your thumb, you might want to try to get an increase. I'm on the burn pit registry, and my sinusitis was denied even with me having it now and still taking medications daily for it. You might want to appeal. I'm 100% and was discharged 2010 homebound, but never applied for it. Can I still apply for PTSD? Yes, absolutely. You can apply. You might not want to touch it with 100%, but that's up to you. But you can absolutely still apply. How would I go about getting tinnitus connected to medication caused by already service-connected disabilities? You just claim it secondary to, specifically secondary to the medication, say it's back pain. Tinnitus secondary to medication for back pain. If I were you, I would get a paper application, write it out just like that. Tinnitus secondary to medication for back pain, name the specific medication, and send that application in. Sometimes it's just easier to do a paper application. You got room to explain things and things like that, other than the boxes they give you online. It's just easier for me sometimes. Takes a little more work, but it's worth it. I have bilateral on Hallus valgus bunion, issued foot soles and wrapped to mitigate from VA. While it's a low value claim, can I make secondary to my back disability? Absolutely. I've seen it a lot of times. Does VRE evaluation better increase a claim for TDIU? It certainly is helpful evidence. Them saying that you can't work. My initial claim in 1995 for hypothyroidism was granted at 10% service connected, but everything I read now puts me at the criteria for 30%. Your thoughts put in for increase if you feel your disability has worsened. With the new Gulf War presumptive condition, do undiagnosed conditions such as joint pain need a current diagnosis before you submit a claim? Yes. What is the lowest I should go back to that. You're not going to get a rating without a current diagnosis. What is the lowest percentage rating that is considered to be loss of use? For example, for lower extremity, does it have to be 100%? I believe that it does. I don't know the specific answer to this. I'm going to be honest, but I do believe it has to be loss of use. It has to be totally disabling. My husband put in for allergic rhinitis and sinusitis in 2019. After the presumptive change, he was awarded 10% for allergic rhinitis and not service-connected for sinusitis. The VA sent a letter for him to apply for sinusitis again because they noticed the claim he put in was denied for sinusitis. So we did LHR. Was that the right thing to do? Yes, it was. Also, can migraines be connected to allergic rhinitis or sinusitis? Yes, they can. I would try secondary to sinusitis first. How do I get a diagnosis for fibromyalgia? I have been seeing this rheumatologist for a while now. Though every time I see her, she gives me a visit summary. Is assessment same as diagnosis? Yes, it is. I just don't know why she hasn't diagnosed me with fibromyalgia for all the chronic pain and fatigue I deal with. If she's made an assessment, then that is a diagnosis. You do have a diagnosis for fibromyalgia, file your claim. I filed sleep apnea, but not secondary to my PTSD. Can I file sleep apnea secondary to PTSD now? Yes. I have a CPAP and the VA diagnosed me and did a sleep study. Yes, you can file it secondary. Just remember, if it's been previously denied, then you need to put it on a supplemental claim form, the 20-0995, a supplemental claim form if it's been previously denied. Can ED be secondary to major depressive disorder? Absolutely. Even if you're not taking medication for it. Absolutely, it can. I see it almost every week. Will the VA rate me for something that I filed that was not in my records but was diagnosed during my CMP exam by the physician? They have the power to, yes. Had service-connected right knee on remand for increase. Says the appeals people closed it, but haven't seen anything on va.gov. We'll be calling the VA. We'll call in the 800-827-1000 number be helpful, or would it be better to call the Veterans White House line? Either one, but there's also a separate BVA, Board of Veterans Appeals number. You might want to call that number and ask them. Sometimes they have more helpful information, but it's a remand, so it went back to the regional office, so the 1000 number should help, or the complaint hotline might give you more information. It's a toss-up. Remember, when you call these numbers, you're calling a call center, and you're going to get a call center response. They're going to read a script, tell you what they can tell you to the best of their ability, but they're in no way experts on what's going on with your claim. Just remember that. Sometimes I have vets that are my clients call me and try to tell me what the call center people told them, and I'm just like, oh, God. You know what I mean? Why would they change my supplemental claim to an HLR? I don't know. You would have had to file for that. If they did it, you might have filed on the wrong form. But if they change it to an HLR, something is going on there. You want to check into that. You can always switch lanes. So if you feel it should be a supplemental claim, file a supplemental claim form. You can switch lanes within 1 year of the decision. I was denied a claim for my left shoulder. Since this condition neither occurred in or was caused by service, there are 3 sick calls I have. Guess they did it. A routed order. Hold on 1 second. read an order sending me to a special training company to complete basic, known as STC, and QTC was mentioned on another sit call. Sending me to a special training company to complete basic, known as send in the records that you have. That's the best way to resolve that. Send in the records you have with a supplemental claim. I filed for migraines with a nexus letter from my psychiatrist, and it was denied because there's no history of complaints. Oh, Lord. I see my neurologist every 6 months and on medication for migraines. Still get migraines and take my meds and stay in quiet and dark place during my episodes. What should I do? Also, I did 2 CMP exams for my flat feet and still not rated. If I were you, I would ask for a higher level review and argue the benefit of the doubt. If you see you could get your records from your neurologist. This is another avenue. Get your records from your neurologist. File a supplemental claim with those records. Write a statement that says this is proof that I have history of complaints and the decision was incorrect, and that should help. I think they didn't want to give me back pay for 10 months. That might be true. I applied for IU in a prior claim, which I'm awaiting the decision for, but I recently had a CMP for 2 other separate conditions. I was told I'd have to apply for IU for those conditions to get it applied to those. Is that true? Yes. I was denied service connection for sinusitis when I got out in 2012, despite me having an in-service diagnosis. I had chronic sinusitis surgery in 2013. With the new presumptive conditions, how should I approach this? Simply file a supplemental claim, the 20-0995 form, write up their sinusitis. Please re-adjudicate my claim. It's now presumptive. Write that exactly. Sinusitis dash, please re-adjudicate my claim. It's now presumptive. Put the date on the form that they denied it. If you don't know the specific date, put the year. Send that in, and they should re-adjudicate your claim. Would you recommend filing for weight gain as secondary to depression meds and then a secondary for OSA to weight gain, since weight is the reason I was denied for OSA as secondary to depression? So obesity is not a condition which can be rated for VA purposes. Obesity is not considered a disability for VA rating purposes. And so what you want to do is just go ahead and file it straight out. Sleep apnea secondary to weight gain from depression meds, and file that secondary to your depression. Like I said in the previously, I would get a paper form and write it all out, write the whole statement out. Sleep apnea secondary to weight gain from depression meds from service-connected depression. Put that on the form, send it in, and let them process it from there. If you've already been denied OSA, then you might want to put that on a supplemental claim form. Put sleep apnea secondary to weight gain from depression meds due to depression, and then put M21 this is Roman numerals, 2, 3, 2 Roman numeral, 3 Roman numeral, the number 2, capital B, 1 lowercase b, and that is the reference that says, it says, a new theory of service connection is sufficient new and relevant evidence to satisfy the evidentiary threshold. That's what that reference says. That means that if you present a new theory of service connection, which you are doing when you are tying your OSA to your weight instead of directly to depression, they need to re-adjudicate it. So that's Roman numeral 2, Roman numeral 3, the number 2, capital B, 1, lowercase b, the number 1, lowercase b. Hope that makes sense. I had 2 heart attacks, high blood pressure, 7 stents. I had a mild stroke. I was diagnosed by VA for PTSD, but not rated. My other claims are secondary to my PTSD. I suffer from ED as well. I have a video interview soon. Is your VA interview for psych? If so, just go there, tell them, the stressful situation that you've been through. Don't focus too much on your childhood, focus on your military life and beyond, and, the stressor and how it affects you daily. And get through that interview, and hopefully you'll be rated for PTSD. I have 10% for knee pain, but can I also file for instability separately? You absolutely can. Knee pain and knee instability, which means giving out, locking, that type of thing, the sensation of giving out, can be rated separately from knee pain. That situation does not apply to the shoulder or ankle. If I have 10% for each knee and 10% for shin splints, 10% for each knee, 10%. Will that make my bilateral score 30%, or is it 21% and shin splints 10% by itself? Okay, let me tell you a secret. If I were you, I would never touch that in the future, because now they rate shin splints as knees. So they will go back and decrease your 10% for shin splints and just give you the 10% each for knees with shin splints. So they no longer rate it separately. The VA no longer rates knees and shin splints separately. They will rate your shin splints separately from your knees if they believe your shin splints originated from your ankles. So they believe shin splints is either a knee issue or an ankle issue. And a doctor has to say that it comes from one or the other in order for you to get a separate rating. It's complicated, and if I were you, I wouldn't touch that part of your claim. But you're asking about the bilateral factor. No, it only applies to the two knees and not the one shin splints. 21%. I'm currently at 30% for plantar fasciitis. Can I file a claim for my lower back if it's not originally claimed? Yes. You can file it secondary to your feet, or primary if you had it in the military. I initially filed for rhinitis and sinusitis in 2016. Both were denied as not service-connected with no exam scheduled for me. Recently sent in supplemental for presumptive condition. I received a letter that my medical records couldn't be found and requested I send in any copies I have in my possession. Oh boy. I knew in 2005 from previous claim that my record couldn't be found. So how did they deny them in 2016, but then tell me to resubmit claim? Okay. So they probably don't have your service records, but they probably do have your personnel records, right? So if your personnel records place you in the Gulf, and Djibouti, Iraq, Afghanistan, one of the places where that counts as for service connection, then that is all that should matter. If you were in the Gulf and you have those conditions, and the doctor currently diagnoses you with those conditions, and you're within 10 years of service, then you could be service connected for them. So them having your medical record is not king in this situation. That's what I would write them a letter and say, I was in the Gulf. I know you can't find my STRs, but I did have this condition in service and I do have it now. Please continue to process my claim. My initial claim for service-connected disabilities due to seizures was denied in the year 2000. I did not appeal. However, VA did not schedule me for any exams with my medical records showed that I had seizure. I reapplied in 2017 after a neurology inpatient test, confirmation of a service-connected seizures. Would it be a reconsideration or a queue on effective date back to 2000? You might want to try getting a representative, maybe an attorney, and taking it, if you're still within the appeal period, taking it all the way up to the Court of Veterans Appeals level and arguing for an earlier effective date. That might be an effective way to do it. Filing a queue, they might can help you file a queue. A queue is a very high legal standard, a very, very high legal standard. The board does not grant them often, neither does the court. And so you really need an attorney to write that up on your behalf. Just telling you straight out, I don't think it would be a reconsideration based on the facts that you told me here, but I don't have all the facts. I do think you might have a queue, but it would take an attorney to look through that, find out the nuances and facts of the case, and apply them on paper in an argument a solid argument that you have a clear and unmistakable error. It's probably not something you want to tackle yourself. Can ankle tendonitis be, I have that myself, it's terrible. It's really just bad. Be rated as secondary to plantar fasciitis, and would I need a nexus letter if it developed after service? Yes, it can be rated secondary to plantar fasciitis, and you don't necessarily need a nexus letter from the beginning because the VA can give you a nexus. So just go ahead and put in for it secondary, see what the VA says. If they deny it, then get a nexus. But I wouldn't pay for a nexus letter up front. That's just me. Now, if you want to shore up your case, you can. But the VA probably would just go with the VA examiner's opinion anyway, so I will see what they said first. I put in for migraines with a DBQ from my provider indicating prostrated migraines. The VA conducted a CMP. I'm cervical at 0% with a letter saying they weren't prostrated. How should I proceed? HLR, supplemental evidence. My provider said they would provide a statement that they are prostrated. Either one is fine. You already have one saying they're prostrating, so HLR just emphasize that and that they should grant you the benefit of the doubt. The law says where there's a question of 2 ratings, a higher should be applied. That's pretty straightforward. You can argue that. A supplemental claim is also a good way to go if your provider will write another statement. Might be a tad bit easier, but it's really up to you. Both ways are good ways to go in this case. I was denied for rheumatoid arthritis, and the letter states nexus or link has not been established between your claimed issue or an in-service event. Favorable findings have sufficient service to meet the minimum requirements for presumptive service connection. It reads, the review of my exam confirms the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis in bilateral shoulders, bilateral knees, bilateral hips, bilateral elbows, forearms. Should I get a nexus letter and file again or appeal? I would get a nexus letter. Thank you for all you do. The information you shared helped me get to 100%. Thank you. That's why I do this. So happy for you. I am still doing CMP exams for outstanding claims that have been closed without adjudication. What the heck? Just received another appointment from QTC today. They will probably be adjudicated once the exams come back, but you might want to get a representative to look into that. Just heads up, I'm going to be up here for about 5 more minutes. I've been up here for 55 minutes, about 5 more minutes. So thank you for all the questions, guys. Recently realized my sinus headache and our tension headache, which were in my service records. I just received primary medicine from my primary care provider. How long should I wait before I file a claim? If I were you, I would file it tonight. I intend to file tonight. There's not really much point in waiting. If you have it, file it. And if you have it and had it in service or it's secondary to something, go ahead and file it. I submitted a supplemental claim, but the decision letter stated HLR. But I did receive favorable decision with increase from 30 to 80%. They probably just got it wrong on the decision letter. But good thing you got an increase. I have been searching the internet for presumptive conditions for soldiers who were deployed to Kosovo. I was a military police soldier who stayed in the community. After I returned from Kosovo, abdominal pain, nothing shows up on tests. Pain comes and goes to date. In September this year, I was diagnosed with colitis. Unfortunately, I don't think there are any presumptive conditions for Kosovo. That is very sad. I've heard multiple stories from Kosovo. So what you need to do is try to get a nexus letter to connect your colitis to that time. If you can prove the abdominal pain started in service, then a doctor can probably connect that abdominal pain to your colitis. Can you put in an intent to file new claims while waiting on an HLR? Absolutely. How long does it usually take to get a decision on a claim? I uploaded my DBQ in September. I have a lot of claims that are stalled at this point and just waiting on a decision. They have all the evidence back. The CMP exams are back, and it's just waiting on a decision, and it's been waiting for over 2 months. So at this point, I think the time frame is a little extended, and we're getting into the holidays. I would say at this point, claims are taking at least 3 to 4 months. I communicate frequently via secure message with my VA primary care provider and my other VA providers concerning my health issues. Can the VA or BVA consider these secure message as complaints or comments about my health issues? Absolutely. That is absolutely a good thing to do. It is put into your medical record and it can be considered evidence, especially their responses. Previously denied hypertension secondary to weight gain due to my inability to exercise from service-connected gout. Can I file a supplemental claim for hypertension caused by gout meds? Yes. I was diagnosed with sinusitis while deployed and was approved as a presumptive. I filed for vertigo secondary to chronic sinusitis. The examiner stated I had vertigo but was not taking medicine, so the exam got denied. Shall I file again? If so, what is the reference? Yes, I would get a nexus letter and file again. Or ask for I would get a nexus letter and file a supplemental claim. I have over 4 hours of documents from active duty about my knees and can only get my right knee 10%, left knee nothing. You might want to try claiming your left knee secondary to your right knee. You need to do that on a supplemental claim because it's been denied before. I will tell you this about knees. I know they are extremely painful, but it gets rough to get above 10% for a knee that you usually have to have a partial knee replacement or something to that degree to get above 10% for a knee because it's all about range of motion. If you can sit on a waiting table with your knees at 90%, you're probably only going to get 10%. So if you can get up on the table in the exam room, you're probably only going to get 10%. Your knees need to be much worse than that. No matter how painful they are, the VA determines a knee rating by both pain and range of motion, and range of motion is the biggest factor. Regarding the denied sinusitis in 2012 with surgery in 2013, along with the supplemental claim, please re-adjudicate my claim. Should I include documents from the surgery, spouse statement, or updated diagnosis? I would include all of that. Everything you can give them that proves your case, give it to them. I get 20% for both shoulders. Do I get another 10% for bilateral? Yes, you do. It's automatically added in when they do your rating. I only served in Afghanistan, yet the VA has me serve in Persian Gulf War. I believe they consider it the same thing. I could be wrong. Geography is not my strong suit, but I know for a fact you are considered a Gulf War veteran. Persian Gulf War is beyond me right now at the moment. I could be wrong, but I think it's considered the same thing. Southwest Asia. If you're 100%, how do you request TMP, or should I leave it alone until my next scheduled exam? You can request TMP by putting it in writing. I would like to request to become total and permanent. Please reevaluate the condition that is not static. Name the condition that is not static that's scheduled for a future exam. Say I want to be, if it's your back, say I want to be re-examined for my back and I want my back to be rated permanent and total. You also have to file an increase claim for your back. So file a 526 EZ for if it was your back, it would be for your back, and then submit that statement with it asking it for it that it be made permanent and total. Submit the statement with the claim, not separately. Or you could wait till your next scheduled exam and then submit the statement asking that it be made permanent. It's up to you. How long is the waiting period for the Court of Veterans Appeals? I say it takes about 8 months to a year. If I'm filing for an increase, can I submit my supplemental claims at the same time? Yes. If a veteran received an advance on the docket at the BVA in 2009 for financial hardship and now has a totally different appeal at the VA, could she receive another AOD for a COVID-19 diagnosis? Absolutely. Alrighty, guys, I've been here for an hour. It has been a wonderful hour with you all. Thank you so much for being with me and sticking with me and listening, and all your questions. Your questions help. They help thousands of vets to watch this after they watch the replay and they get this information. So your questions help thousands of vets. So you are helping serve a lot of people. So thank you. I appreciate your questions. They were very good questions. And remember, if you're watching this on replay that I'm not live, I probably won't be able to answer your questions after the fact, but hopefully this has been helpful. Y'all, I hope you had a wonderful Veterans Day last week, and y'all be blessed. Take care.